Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Jai Om Vishnupad, Kuruchuramani Sava Shastra Siddhantavit, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai, Jai Nitya Leela Pravishtam Vishnupad, Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai, Rupanuga Guru Bhargya ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem Sagaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Shri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Jai Sri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Vrinda ki jai, Samadvaita Vaishnava Mandali ki jai, Kol Kartel ki jai, Sri Harinama Sankirtan ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. Okay. So welcome everyone to our Sunday afternoon talk, broadcast live from the East London branch Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mart. As before, we are going through the books of our Divine Master, Founder Acharya, Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mart, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, taken from his lectures in English between 1981 and 1988. And at the moment we're going through Sri Bhakti Rakshak Dibya Bani, Sermons of the Guardian of Devotion, Volume 2, and this is Chapter 10, Supersubjective Reality.
Is that the last chapter?
Let me see. No. There's another chapter after that. Yes. Supersubjective Reality. So the devotee says, "It was very nice at your birthplace. I enjoyed it very much." Srila Guru Maharaj's reply, "Enjoyed?" The devotee says, "Yes." Guru Maharaj's reply, "That is not to be enjoyed. We should not use that expression to enjoy about any place of reverence. We should try to see with only a serving attitude. Higher existence is to be tackled only with awe, reverence, and serving attitude. Otherwise we shall be anthropomorphists. We shall take one thing for another. Marcha buddhi, aparad, it will be offense. Whenever we shall approach the higher subjective realm, we should feel that I am not seeing, I am not the subject, but that is seeing me. Do you follow?" The devotee says, "Yes." So, anthropomorphism, that means taking something which is mundane and ascribing divinity to it, or something like that. Divinity to it. Divinity. Making a man into a god or something like that. That's called anthropomorphism. Then Guru Maharaj continues. That is the supersubjective element. For example, when we stand before the Srimurti, the deity, our attitude should be, I am not seeing him, he is seeing me. He is the seer. We have to approach the transcendental world not as a seer, but as we are being seen by him. We are being bathed, cleansed by the ray of his vision. Can you understand this? Devotee, yes, yes. Guru Maharaj continues. Our whole approach should be like this. Otherwise we shall see mundane things and imagine them to be spiritual. We won't come practically in connection with that reality. Reality is super subjective. Taking this world as the object, we are a subject. But when I'm going to have a touch of the super subjective, I must know that he is the all-seer, all feeler, all hearer. The very basis of spiritual life is like this. Then we shall come in contact with the higher reality. Otherwise we shall go on plodding in the mud of imagination. The attitude should be to want to be utilized by him and try for any chance of serving him. I have come here to serve and not to enjoy the scenery. Can you feel this? Devotee replies, yes. Guru Maharaj continues. This will take us to connection with the higher substance. Subjective, super subjective, super subjective. The very fine, finer, finest. In this way, in the sphere of consciousness, so Gyan Shunya, one should surrender himself. How can I be utilized by him? This is the way. Otherwise, what is the use of sightseeing? Enjoy the scenery. That is offensive. Devotee, when the environment comes to attack us, how can we see that as Krishna? Guru Maharaj says, when the environment is unfavorable, yes. Guru Maharaj, we shall try to find out the supreme will there. We should feel, I have done something wrong, so this is coming to control me and to exact the reaction for my offenses. Taktenu kampam shushamikshamanu. In the perfect vision, we are not to quarrel with our environment. Not even a straw can move without the supreme will, without the order of the supreme will. So whatever is coming to attack me is my necessity. Just that is necessary for me to correct me. So that is very much a central theme of Srila Sridhar Maharaj's teaching, that we are not to find fault or argue in the environment or try to change our environment. We are always very used to this way of seeing things. It's because I live here that this is happening, because of that person this is happening, because of this thing that is happening. But actually, that's not true. Sometimes we see that and we think, oh, I should just change my environment and just go and live somewhere else or do something else. But the problem with that is, wherever you go, there you are. You, the same person with all the same things, you're there. Whatever you may find yourself, you yourself haven't changed. You're the same person. So, then you're just putting off dealing with it. You think, oh, if I go and live somewhere else, that will be better and I'll be able to, practice Krishna consciousness more peacefully, or this thing or that thing. But that's all misconception. And when Guru Maharaj says we are not to quarrel with our environment, what does he mean by the environment? Well, I would take Einstein's definition of the environment as what Guru Maharaj is referring to. And Einstein said, the environment is everything that isn't you. That's the environment. So we're not to quarrel with that, not to find fault with that. That's our defect. So this verse that Guru Maharaj quoted, Taktenu kampam shushamikshamanu, so often he's referring to this verse. It's from Srimad Bhagavatam. Who can face the reaction of their karma? Who can see that everything that's coming to them is a result of their own action? No one else to blame except themselves. And if they can carry on serving the Lord in that circumstance, they'll get the goal very quickly. They'll come to the goal very quickly. But while we're always looking for something or someone else to blame for our misfortune, we'll always be in a very difficult situation. So. So Guru Maharaj says, not even a straw can move without the Supreme Will, without the order of the Supreme Will. So whatever is coming to attack me is my necessity. Just that is necessary for me, to correct me. And of course, when you're in the midst of that, some calamitous thing that happens to you in your life, you cannot but feel, helpless and looking for something or someone to blame for that. It can't be that it was me. It must have been them, And sometimes, ostensibly, it is them. They come, and someone comes and just punches you in the face. Well, you're looking to that. Yes, they're to blame. I didn't do anything to provoke that or whatever. But the deeper understanding is that came to me because of something that I've done. And it's not just for punishment. It's actually to teach us and that we can learn from that lesson. But when you're in the middle of that, it's very difficult, isn't it? Very difficult to see in that way. They say that when we're looking back, hindsight is always 20/20. We can read the environment. Oh yeah, it was this, it was this, it was this. But when you're actually in the middle of it, going through it, it's very difficult to do that. So we have to practice this as almost as a sadhana, trying to see in this way.
Some people say, why did God make this happen?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the other thing. And when I was in the Ukraine some years ago, Avadut Maharaj arranged these preaching on these boats. He hired these 2 boats, were going down the river, and they're having kirtan and everything. Then they're pleasure cruiser boats, 2 the same. So then there's the upper deck and the lower deck. And so on the one boat, he asked me, you go and preach to the people on the lower deck. It was just our people, it wasn't the public or anything. It was just people who'd come to the Veda Life Festival. So I went down and I asked them, are there any questions? And this lady, she said to me, when there are so many terrible things happening in the world, why doesn't God sort it out? Why doesn't he make it right? Why does he allow it to happen? And I said, well, first of all, if he thought it was necessary for him to make that right, to correct everything for your benefit, he would do that. But the fact that he doesn't do that means there must be some reason behind it. Because he's not malicious. He doesn't do anything just for a laugh, let's see how they get out of this one, It's not like that. Or, how the ancient gods of the Romans or the Greeks, on Mount Olympus, they make these kind of scenarios to play with us, as their pawns for their entertainment. But Krishna's not like that. Everything that Krishna does has some deep meaning to it, but only he knows what that is in full. We can't know that. But we should have faith that he won't do anything that will actually cause harm to us, if we can see that. And also I'm reminded of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he was asked this similar question. His reply was, if Krishna made this world perfect place of your enjoyment, then you would have no reason to want to leave it. He makes these things happen in our life so that we can understand this isn't our home. And we shouldn't try and get too comfortable here. We should be aware of that.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
Bhakti Maharaj would say also that that which Krishna imposes his will upon is called matter, jada, and that makes it insentient, because self-volition is a symptom or a part of consciousness itself. So he even if he did in one case, he would have changed everything. You know what I mean? Gone against everybody's will.
Right.
So, in a certain sense, it would not work.
Yeah, we saw that. You see that on that. It's quite nicely illustrated. If you've ever seen that film called Bruce Almighty, have you seen that? So it's Jim Carrey, and he gets the power of God that he can and so all these people, they're praying to him for this thing, that thing, whatever, multitude of things, and they're in the film. They come to him, in his inbox, God, please give me this. God, please give me that. And he just presses grant all, give them everyone what they want, and it causes complete havoc in the world because of that. So of course it's just a comedy film, but the point is quite clear, and it's a good point. So then Guru Maharaj says, just as when the mother is punishing the child, she does so only with the goodwill to correct the child. Similarly, the Absolute has got no vindictive nature to punish me, but his dealings are only for my correction. We shall have to see and approach in that way. Taktenu kampam shushamikṣamanu bhujana evatma kritam vipakam. Whatever undesirable I find here is the result of my previous karma. And by the goodwill of the Supreme, that previous karma is going to be finished. I will be relieved. I will be made fit for higher service to him. So this has come. This is the advice in Bhagavatam. Don't quarrel with the environment. Try to be adjusted with it. Correct your own ego. Everything is all right. And I saw that they wrote, when I was young and full of, zealous ideas, I wanted to change the world. I thought I could change the world. So, but now I am older, I realize I can only change myself. So actually that's very true, That's one thing maybe we learn as we get older.
But sometimes I think situation is created by God. Some person has to die in water, then he creates that he goes in a pool or somewhere.
Yes, of course.
Or any other situation. Everything is created because
and
previous karma, previous life karma.
And we can say, actually we wouldn't say about ourselves, but we can say in the case of devotees that Krishna takes a personal hand in that, if you like, He, you could say, almost interferes with that. Whereas the general people, it's just happening by the law of karma, by nature's law. And nature's law is kind of cold and unyielding. You wouldn't think that it's very fair that an ignorant child, a little child, if it puts its hand in the fire, that it should burn. Or they don't know, then, let them off. But the law of nature doesn't consider that. No, fire burns. The little kiddie puts his hand in the fire, it's going to burn. Or the adult puts his hand on the fire, equally going to burn. So, but in the case of those who are Krishna's devotees, then sometimes Krishna manipulates things himself or through his agents. And I think that many of us have that experience in life. It may not be, like something phenomenal, but it may be something significant that we can see, oh, Krishna's hand is behind that. And if we can see that in everything, then we're very fortunate. Then very quickly we can pass through, you can say that's part of our spiritual development.
Would you say the material world works on the system of justice?
Yeah, it does, yes. there is no injustice. We see sometimes, oh, that person was thrown in prison and, tortured, and they didn't do anything. And, people are campaigning, this is a great injustice. And of course, on one level, that may be true. But actually, in the ultimate calculation, there is no injustice, because we live in a cosmos, not a chaos. So actually, chaos means the opposite of cosmos. Cosmos means we live in an ordered universe, that everything happens as it's meant to happen. So, of course, that doesn't mean that therefore we should become callous when we see the suffering of others. Someone gets knocked over and we just go, that's their karma, obviously, No, obviously you're going to go and try and help that person, isn't it, So, but because that's part of human nature. And of course, when you help or whether you ignore, or especially whether you take pleasure in that will bring a reaction to you also. So because we're not, as they say, no man is an island. As Guru Maharaj was oft to say, we're all part of an organic whole. So we're all interrelated with one another in this world. So, then we have some part to play. It's not that we just become indifferent to everything, but unattached. The devotee is unattached to pain or pleasure. But also the devotees see the suffering of others as their own suffering. So, Guru Maharaj would always say, real religion means proper adjustment. So we are to adjust with everything in every circumstance in the environment. Otherwise, what would be the need of, the fire brigade or, the ambulance service or anything? They just say, it's just karma, their house is burning down. Oh, it's just like karma, So, no, of course not. But ultimately, if we stand back and look, we can see that everything is happening by the will of the Lord. So don't quarrel with the environment. Try to be adjusted with it. Correct your own ego. Everything is all right. Your ego is demanding some sort of comfort from the environment, and this is the cause of this hitch. There's no hitch in the outside, no ailment, but within your ego creates the problem. The false ego should be dissolved, and the liquid nectar will flow and place you within the higher plane. The plane where there is no complaint. The smooth movement, affectionate movement of the most fundamental plane. Your soul will find yourself standing and walking in that plane. And the false friends, the circumstances we think to be friends, but which are really all false, those false friends will be withdrawn. That is nirguna, the causeless flow of welfare, most fundamental in the absolute plane. That is bhakti proper. Bhakti means seva, service, service divine. That is a causeless wave, the deepest wave, the wave of the deepest plane. That is causeless, and that is irresistible. That means no beginning, no end, an eternal flow. And only my soul can take a stand in that plane and move in harmony with that plane. Kata ganam natyam gamanam. In Brahma Samhita it is mentioned, all the talks there are as sweet as song, and all the walking there, movement is as sweet as dancing. In this way everything is sweet. That is the harmonious movement plane. In Vrindavan, we have to go back to that home. We have come out with the spirit of colonization in a foreign land with the bad object of exploitation. For the purpose of exploitation, we have come to colonize in this material world, and as a reaction, we suffer. The whole cover must be eliminated, and our person within, the finest ego, must emerge. Within this gross, mischievous ego, there is a finer ego, the soul, and that is the child of that soil. Do you understand? The devotee says, yes, sometimes I understand. And Guru Maharaj says, so fault-finding will take us in the wrong direction. Finding fault in others is the negative side. We should feel, cent per cent, I shall engage my attention to correct myself. My responsibility is there. My main responsibility is to correct myself. Physician, heal thyself. That should be the principle of any bona fide student of this Krishna consciousness. That is the positive side, and the negative side, the indirect side, is to judge others' practices, and how to associate with them. We shall associate with the good, and we shall avoid those who are not up to the standard. But this is the negative side, and this is not as important as the positive side. We shall be optimistic to see good everywhere, and for ourselves we should think, my knowledge and angle of vision is bad, so I can't see others properly. Physician, cure thyself. If our achara, or our own practices, are well, only then can we have some qualification for preaching to others. How can one who is not in a normal position try to bring others to a normal position? If we shall take the divine name, there are so many considerations. Mainly, there are 10 kinds of offences to avoid, which deny us proper conception. Proper conception will help proper dealing and positive attainment, which is how to get out of the negative side. Maya means misconception, misunderstanding, misleading. We are misleading the environment. So I've been speaking about this over the last few weeks because it's something that I've been thinking about, or in my own study and everything has come up there. That this Guru Maharaj is saying Maya means misconception. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's written that for the practitioner, the sadhaka, there are 4 kinds of anarthas, the main anarthas, which we are to overcome. And that first one is this misunderstanding, or he says misunderstanding of the self, mistaken identity, thinking that we are, this ego and this body and this mind and all of these other things. This is the first anartha that we have to overcome. So you can see that A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Prabhupada, his preaching was mainly this, wasn't it? You're not the body. And, he hammered that home again and again and again. Why? Because even after hearing that, we still think we're the body. Even though, like we can say, philosophically I understand. But when I look in the mirror, I still think that's me looking back. And I'm checking, am I looking all right, So, and then I'm thinking that my family and my home and my society, and they're all part of who I am, and I'm related to all of these things in so many ways. And this is all Maya, this is all misconception, the first anartha. And maybe we'll be lifetimes together just to understand that properly, to properly be able to conceive of ourselves as a spiritual being and not what we see in the mirror.
Isn't that Sambandha Jnana?
Sambandha Jnana, yeah, that's very necessary for us to do away with that misunderstanding. That's why the acharyas have written so many books to explain this to us. And the second is, which is sort of, the next stage of that, is the desire for things of this world. That we want so many things in this world. We want, we all know what all those things that we want. Health and wealth and a cottage by the sea. And, a new car, bigger car, a bigger television, and, whatever it might be. But we desire these things. And if we don't desire like material objects, we desire prestige, and we desire, name for ourselves, and, our reputation, and so many different things. So this is the second anartha. And the third anartha, he says, is aparad. That means offenses. So Guru Maharaj is saying here, when you're taking the name, so many things to consider, and the 10 offenses to the holy name. But there's also other offenses which are listed in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Hari Bhakti Vilas, Seva Aparad and Dharma Aparad, and like so many things that we have to like guard ourselves against or try to eliminate. And the fourth anartha, which I think is the most difficult of all, is, he says, is weakness of heart. That means when we know everything, we know what we should be doing, we know what is required of us if we want to be a devotee of Krishna. We know all of this, but we can't be bothered. And that's what it boils down to, like, can't really be bothered, So that's very unfortunate that we that stage comes to us, stays with us, and especially when we have more or less a peaceful, easy life. And we do, generally, most of us have a peaceful, easy life. We're not suffering so many things in this world. That's why Kunti Devi, she prays, bring the calamity again and again, because when we're in a calamitous situation, we have to think of you, because we have to take shelter of you. But when everything's going, zippity-doo-dah, we don't think about that so much. We don't think about you so much. We're more involved in the enjoying of that good fortune that we have. And if we think of you, it's thanks Krishna, thanks for that. This is great. But anyway, of course, we are not of the level of devotion of Kunti Devi, but we can understand the principle that just so that I can't forget your lotus feet, if that's what it's required, that some calamity needs to come in my life so I can remember you, then let it be, let it happen. But generally we're praying, no, don't let it happen. Please, save me from this calamity or whatever it may be. Anyway, that, to me, I think is the most difficult thing. But they're all related, aren't they? All of those, they're all related. So the more we nurture those other three things, that misunderstanding of who we are, that desire for the things of this world, and offenses to Krishna and his holy name, then the more that attitude of can't be bothered will be there in us, We hear it sometimes, they say, maybe next life, maybe next life I'll be able to do it. I can't really do it, so I can't be bothered, It's like, what was that? That example is of Bilva Mongol and the prostitute Chintamani. So he like goes through so much ordeal to be with her, like swims across a river, flooded river, and the storm is battering him, and is like attacked by wild animals, and so many things happen, and finally he reaches her and is like, okay, now I can enjoy. I've been thinking about this for so long, and I want to enjoy. And although she was a prostitute, she was a devotee, and she said to him, if only you had that kind of determination for the service of Krishna, then really, you'd be doing really well. And that affected him very deeply. That's why in his, at the beginning of his Krishna Karnamritam, he says, I bow down to my Guru Chintamani, because he took it as that, the Lord came to speak to him through her. And we see that, don't we? Like there's that song or poems, love poems, they say, ain't no mountain high enough, ain't no river deep enough to keep me from you, you know, so I'm coming, you know. And then said, and I'll see you on Tuesday night if it's not raining. So, you know, unfortunately, that's why, you know, there in Prapanajivanamritam, there's a prayer there by a devotee who says, as much as I love sense gratification now, can you make it so that I love you as much as I love that sense gratification? That would be wonderful. So, the difficulty, no, what's this? Okay. If we shall take the divine name, then there are so many considerations. Mainly, there are 10 kinds of offences to avoid, which deny us a proper conception. Proper conception will help proper dealing and positive attainment, which is how to get out of the negative side. So Guru Maharaj would often say, realization comes after proper conceptualization. That's important first, as Prabhu said. That's Sambandha Gyan. Sambandha Gyan is necessary for us to have a right conception. Otherwise, not possible for realization to come if you're just living in the world of imagination. It's not going to happen. Proper conception will help proper dealing and positive attainment, which is how to get out of the negative side. Maya means misconception, misunderstanding, misleading. We are misleading the environment. The difficulty is all apparent and suicidal. Sometimes we want causeless mercy. At the same time, we can't tolerate others in that same line. We go to judge in the case of others. Why should he receive causeless mercy? He's got so many defects, so much anti-attitude and disqualification. Why should he be accepted or given any chance? But for us, we want, don't come to judge me, Lord, otherwise I shall have no hope, my Lord. Gyan Shunya Bhakti. If you come to judge, I have got no hope. Please grant grace that I can hope to approach you, to offer myself to make progress towards you. If you become very lenient, not to find fault with me, but if at the same time, in the same breath we say, why should this disqualified man get any grace? Why should he get some mercy and affection? That is hypocrisy in us, and that will cause a great deal of difficulty within us. It is suicidal. This is Vaishnava Ninda. Vaishnav Aparad, offense to the devotee. A devotee may be accepted by him, and gradually he will be purified, but we are very eager to find fault in him. That is most dangerous for our own progress. It is suicidal. If in my case I want something higher, but in the case of others I can't tolerate the same behavior of the Lord, that is a most difficult position. Generally, that is the basis of Vaishnava Aparad. When someone has been accepted by the Lord and he is gradually purifying him, and we give particular attention to the remnants of impurities and difficulties in him, the result is that all difficulties will be transferred to us. And this is the actual experience. If I especially mark the fault of another devotee, that will be transferred to me. It happens in our experience, and also in the Shastra we have seen this. And when I first came to Guru Maharaj, when I was staying there, he told me, Krishna Sharan Prabhu, who later became Bhakti Prasan Aranya Maharaj, Krishna Sharan Prabhu, he can teach you Vaishnav Sadachar. So every day you go to him and he'll teach you. So I was doing that, and he was trying to teach me so many things. first thing was he made me sit on my left hand when I'm taking prasadam. So I only use my right hand, not the left hand. That was the first thing. But little things like that, and sometimes I would forget or get it wrong, and of course these aren't really big things, in the scheme of things, but for Vaishnav Sadachar, Guru Maharaj wanted that we would understand those things and, accept that, follow that. So, but if ever I got it wrong or forgot or did it wrong, he used to chastise me. Therefore you are malecha, he would say. Therefore you are malecha. And I didn't take that as a, offense. It just spurred me on to try and be more, attentive to that. And he meant it in a friendly kind of joking way. But one time, Jai Guru Granth Shamsunna. But one time he said that to me in the hearing of Guru Maharaj. And Guru Maharaj was very displeased with him for that. And he chastised him in Bengali, so I couldn't really understand, but I got the gist of it. And that was, you cannot say to him, therefore you are malecha, because I have accepted him as my disciple. So it will be offense to me if you say that to him. So he didn't say that again after that. So one must be very careful not to make any remark generally about the practices and activities of another Vaishnava. It may be possible only in the case when one is empowered by the Supreme, just as in the case of his disciple, to correct his disciple with a guardian sympathetic eye. He can mark the defects, and he will help them to remove them. There must be some affectionate heart within, not jealousy or anything of that type, but with goodwill. The affectionate guardians want to remove the defects. Either from the position of Shiksha Guru or Dikha Guru, one may detect the faults of the students of this line and help them sincerely to get free from them. Otherwise, if we are attracted by those faults, they will come to us and we shall have to pay for it. It's a practical thing, and also based on good reason and scriptural advice. We must be careful. It is also warned in the Vaishnava literatures that we must be careful about Vaishnava aparad that comes from the jealous spirit of competition. That jealousy is very detrimental to our spiritual life. So we all must be very careful to not be especially attracted by any defect. If some doubt about anyone comes to our attention, we may refer it to a higher authority. But if we make too much of it, either in opposition or in any other way, that will be transferred back. We must know, I am devouring my mind. My mind is coming in touch with that fault. This is becoming devoured as food, and the contamination is transferred to the critic. Somehow it is entering into the mental system of the critic, and it must get its satisfaction there as a reaction. This is like a trade secret of our devotional line. You must be aware and very careful about these practical difficulties in the path of your life. So we have been recommended, taktenu kampam shushamikshamanu. The faculty of judgment has been discouraged. Your standard of measuring things won't stand there. Gyan shunya bhakti. You have to learn a new alphabet here. In the devotional school, you have to come in connection with a new alphabet. The old alphabet won't do. Gyan shunya bhakti. Give up all the pride of your past experience. Your knowledge out of experience of the mortal world won't do here, won't be applied here. This is the position in the case of the infinite autocrat and goodness. In our mouth we pronounce all these big things, absolute good, absolute truth, but we do not know about the characteristics of that. So we need his revelation. And he reveals himself. We must carefully note his nature. So Gyan Shunya, give up the pride of your own experience, on the basis of which you will go to judge things. It is not like that. A new law is here, and we have to think of the land of the autocrat and goodness. In Gyan Shunya Bhakti, the first step will be to give up the pride of our previous experience and to begin a new life. I shall accept the laws of the infinite, not the laws of this finite world that I acquired as a subject. I shall have to enter that domain as an object of the subject. There, he is the subject, and I am the object here, possessing only a particle of the space there, and that is also at his sweet will. At any time I may be dispossessed of it. This is not in the democratic government, but in the mad monarchy, a kind of dictatorship. This is to live in the land of a dictatorship, and not in the democracy and law. Jnane prayasam udapasya namanta eva. So yeah, this is... Krishna is the ultimate autocrat. And first thing is we are to allow the free reign of that autocracy, that he can do anything and everything according to his own sweet will, according to his whim. So I don't know if it's in this chapter, but Guru Maharaj uses an example when a sultan came from Persia, came to visit London, and was a guest of the royal family, and they took him to see the Tower of London, and they're showing him where there's the guillotine was there, where they would cut off the head of the traitors and everything, and he was seeing that, and they were saying, of course, we don't do that today, we don't do that anymore. And he said, oh, bring someone so I can see how it works. And they said, no, sorry, we can't do that. He said, you must have some criminal somewhere you can bring, and you can take off his head. I want to see it. He said, no, we can't. We don't do that anymore. And that was in past times. And then he said, I'll bring one of my men. I can bring one of my men. You can chop his head off. I want to see. No, we can't even. Not even your own man. We can't even do that for your entertainment or whatever. However, high you may be, we can't do that. And then that sultan said, then you do not know what is the meaning of a king. So Guru Maharaj would use this example, that he is the autocrat. But in this world, that usually means something bad, isn't it? Someone who wants to chop off people's heads just for a laugh. Right? It's just for a lark, for entertainment. But in that realm, the first thing is to accept his autocracy, that everything that he does is good. Everything, his sweet will, his whim is all good. So if that autocracy is given to him, there can be no harm, because he is all good, all love, all mercy. Then to allow him to have that reign of autocracy, that will only be beneficial for us. To try to stop that will be injurious to us. To think that he has to come under law. That's what this Muslim fellow I was speaking with one day, and he said, your God is an immoral God. This Krishna, he running after other men's wives, and in the middle of the night, and we heard he had 16,108 wives, And he said, this is no God that we can accept. This is immoral God, and he's encouraging immorality in the people by this. But this is the first thing that we have to accept. No, he is not under the law. Even in a mundane sense, the king wasn't under the law of, they had what they used to call the divine right of kings, wasn't it? They can do anything and everything. They're above the law. They make the law. Of course, that falls short in the case of a mundane king. Who was it here that when he invaded Parliament, the House of Commons?
Guy Fawkes? No. Oliver Cromwell?
No, it was the king at that time.
Oh.
And
Charles?
Maybe Charles. I forget, but I learned all this when I worked at Parliament. You had to learn all these things. So he was the king anyway at that time, and he thought that in the House of Commons there would be some noblemen who were known to be against the king. So he thought, right, well, just when the Parliament's in session, I'll just go in with my men and we'll take them and arrest them. So that's what he tried to do, but they'd already gone when he arrived there. But as a result of that, the result of that was the Magna Carta, where they limited the power of the royalty of the king. So and even today, the king or queen cannot enter into the House of Commons. So when the king or queen goes to open Parliament, she has to go into. She has a throne or he now has a throne in the House of Lords, and they summon the members of Parliament from the House of Commons to come and attend there. But the king can't enter there. So this was, limiting the
king of the Magna Carta. That would be John.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, what happened then at that time was, it may not have been when the Magna Carta, but because of the Magna Carta, that it was that he was arrested, and he was beheaded. The king was beheaded, and he said, "I don't recognize the court because I'm above the law. I'm by divine right. I am the king." And I don't recognize the court. So when they asked him, have you got anything to say in your defense? He said, no, I don't recognize the authority of this court. But that was his mistake, because they took him and had his head cut off. And they put his head on the parapet and for a while, Britain was a republic, because they had no king after that. His son went to France and hid in France because he thought he was next. And then they couldn't manage as a republic. They had to go and bring him back. And again, the success line of kings started up again. But anyway, I can't remember. Might have been maybe Edward. I forget. Yeah, it may have been Charles. Yeah. Anyway, it's part of our history in this country and the history of Parliament and democracy. But anyway, so where are we? So everywhere we shall try our best to find mercy, grace, kindness, pity, because whatever the dictator is doing is all good. Means in the case of Krishna. We have to be trained like this. He is the highest dictator without fault, so we may or may not understand, but whatever is commanded by that dictator must be helpful for us. There is no law on which we shall base our judgment and give any remark. To remark is not only absolutely useless, but it is faulty and injurious to ourselves. Such consciousness we have to acquire, and it is not unreasonable. And this is also an example that Guru Maharaj used was Utanka. After the war, Kurukshetra war was finished, Utanka was a Brahmin, and he came to view the battlefield, and he saw so many. Everyone's dead basically on the battlefield there, and then he saw Krishna, and Krishna was also there, and he said, "Oh, this is all your fault, Krishna, because you could have made it happen in another way, but you made it happen this way, and now all these women are bereft of their husbands and their sons, and this is a terrible thing that you have done, and now I'm going to curse you." He took his sacred thread and he was going to curse Krishna, and Krishna said, "Brahmin, don't waste your energy." He said, because all of that tejas, all that power that you've amassed for so long from your austerities and your spiritual practices, if you throw that at me, it will be a waste of your time, and you'll just lose all of that. Because I exist in the nirguna plane. I don't exist in this mundane plane. So that nothing you can throw at me will have any effect on me. You'll just end up losing what you have. So you shouldn't even bother. Anyway, he was intelligent enough to understand and didn't bother. Newton said, "I am only collecting pebbles on the shore of the ocean of knowledge." He was a man of this world, yet he had the sincerity and courage to make this statement. If such a statement is made in deference to the knowledge of only this world, what should be thought of the knowledge of the infinite unknown and unknowable? We must have courage, just as Columbus floated his ship to discover America. He had the courage to float our little boat in the ocean of the unknown and unknowable. We must be cognizant that the laws will be of that type. The laws of the higher ocean may not be applied in the strait or local sea. A thoroughly new thing we have to study, the revealed truth. If we go to measure the infinite with the law of the finite, it will be hopeless for us to go that side. We must invite and think purely of that land, that standard, the unknown world. Swayam Sumitriya Sudastaram Juman Bhavanavanam Bhinam Abhadra Surida Bhavat Padma Bhoru Navam Atrate Nidaya Jata Sad Anugraha Bhavan. This is from the 10th canto of Sriman Bhagavatam. O self-revealed one, you are Bhakta Vanchakalpa Taru, the wish-fulfilling tree of the devotee. The great devotees surrender unto your lotus feet, who have crossed over this ghastly, insurmountable ocean of mundanity, but they have left the boat of your lotus feet in this world, in the Guru Parampara or in the line of revealed truth, Shrotapanta, because they are greatly affectionate to all beings. The Devas, Brahma and Shiva, say in the Bhagavatam, the saints who by your grace have crossed this insurmountable ocean, that dreadful ocean with dreadful waves and so many water animals, those saints again send back the boat, which is compared with the lotus feet of the Lord. By the help of the lotus feet of you, the infinite absolute Lord, they crossed this ocean by the grace of your holy feet, and they again send that boat back here for others to cross the same ocean. They're experienced about the ocean and in which way they crossed and what difficulty they faced, and where your devotees are so magnanimous that after using the boat of your holy feet to cross, they again send them back for us. Because their friendship for the people is very white and pure, and you are always in favor of those devotees, so by their request you can't refuse. You allow your lotus feet again to come this side and take others across. Right. So that's the end of that chapter. Does anyone have any question regarding anything?
Regarding opera,
Mm.
the story you said about you being called a Milacha, you explained that you felt no offence, and the person who said it didn't do it in an offensive way to encourage you. So where's the line between offence and maybe trying to encourage or correct someone?
That will be in the person to whom it's directed, and the person who's directing that. So if somebody says something purposefully to insult you, then that will be an offence. Maybe if it's done in a joking way, or then no, not. And it will also depend on you, the recipient of that. So I'll give an example. When Srila Govinda Maharaj was here, we have a friend. I won't tell his name, but those of you who know him. And he's a very rich businessman, Indian businessman, and he lives in Hendon, in North London. And he would come and visit Gurudev when Gurudev was here. And also he has like a family apartment in Alipur in Calcutta. Alipur, if you don't know, it's like where all the rich people live in Calcutta. So I've been there to his apartment a few times. But anyway, although his father was the treasurer of our mott, disciple of Srila Sridhar Maharaj. But this fellow, he's a nice man, but he's a little crazy. And Srila Govinda Maharaj used to say that to him. "Oh, you are puggle," he would say. But only he could say that, and he would take it from Gurudev. But anyway, he was always promising to give so much money and so many things, and his wife was always very afraid that he's going to give all the family fortune, their son's inheritance, he'd give it all to the Hare Krishnas. So she was always trying to stop him from doing that. But anyway, he came to visit Gurudev here, and was promising so many things. And then the next day, we used to have a fax machine upstairs. And so he sends this fax through addressed to Govinda Maharaj. And it was just like, the reasons why I'm not going to give any donation to you is because they were all offensive things he was saying to Govinda Maharaj. You're this, you're that, you're like, all kinds of offensive things. And so anyway, I was reading that fax, and as I'm reading it, I was starting to get a little bit upset, a little bit angry, and Gurudev saw that on my face, and he said, "What is it, Prabhu? What is it?" I said, "Oh, it's a fax. Someone sent a fax." He said, "What fax?" I said, "Oh, it's nothing for you to concern yourself with, Maharaj. Nothing to concern yourself with." He said, somehow intuitively he knew, and he said, "Is it for me?" And I said, "Yes, Maharaj, it's for you." And he said, "Then give to me." And I said, "No, Maharaj, I don't want to give to you because it's very offensive." And he said, "Yes, Prabhu, give to me. It is for me, give to me." So, I gave it to him, and he's reading it. And where I was getting all like hot under the collar about it, he's just laughing and laughing and laughing. He just found it incredibly amusing, very funny, Then a couple of days later, that fellow came and Gurudev said, "Oh, I got your fax. You are a very puggle man," he told him. The crazy man. And he said, "Yes, Maharaj, I am a very crazy man." Why I'm saying all that is because it's very difficult to offend a Vaishnava. A real Vaishnava, they don't take offense, because they don't think that they have any importance. So Gurudev didn't take any offense, and I thought it was really offensive what he'd written there. But Gurudev just laughed it off. He just thought it was funny, because he didn't consider it offense, because he didn't consider himself to be anyone that he could make offense to, that anyone could make an offense. So this is the nature of a Vaishnava. They don't take offense from anybody. We see that example in Christ, right? When they were nailing him to the cross, he said, "Forgive them, Father, for they do not know what they do." Even then, could have said, like, "Smite them, my Lord," like what they're doing to me. But no.
Sorry, I know that Gurudev didn't take offense, but his disciple or someone, like his friend, they can take offense. So is
No,
that
that's right.
Upright, or does the person that it's directed to have to feel the offense before it becomes upright?
Well, I mean, that I think the ultimate judgment will be Krishna's judgment. So they say, the Vaishnava may forgive you, but Krishna may not. If Krishna may not accept the offense against his devotee, even if the devotee doesn't take offense from it.
Because you said that Sridhar Maharaj said, "This is offense to me," even though there was no offense.
Yeah.
Kind of meant.
Yeah, he's to teach us, and also to teach Krishna Sharan Prabhu. He's also to teach him. So and Guru Maharaj was very serious about everything, And when we came to Guru Maharaj, he was in like his affectionate grandfather stage. But previous to that, he was so super strict. I said to Govinda Maharaj once, "Oh, I wish I could have been when Guru Maharaj was out and preaching and going here and there. I'd like to have seen that." And Govinda Maharaj just laughed at me and he said, "Oh, Prabhu, you would not have been able to stay." I said, "Oh, what do you mean, Maharaj?" And he said, "Guru Maharaj was so strict that I can count on one hand how many people could actually live with him. And he's so strict with himself. And those who stayed with him, he expected them to follow that as well." And Srila Govinda Maharaj said, "What I tolerated from Guru Maharaj, no one can tolerate. But I tolerated. And I stayed." But not everyone can do that, So that was our fortune, that when we came to Guru Maharaj, he was like in that benevolent grandfather stage of his life. And although we did see sometimes he was very strong when somebody did make some offense. He was very strong about that. But the guiding line is, don't do it, even as a joke. Don't make offense to the Vaishnava, even if you think it's a joke. Of course, the offense will always be from lower to higher, not the other way around. So, but if we practice humility, then we will be careful not to make offense to anybody, or whoever they may be. We heard from Guru Maharaj that every day, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, every day he would accept, in the morning he would accept guests would come to talk with him. And he said, one day this very famous Vaishnava, let's say, he came to visit him, and they were having some discussion, Bhaktivinoda and this person. And then Saraswat Thakur, as a young boy, he came in the room, and when he saw them, he made his obeisance from, quite a distance away. And that man said to Bhaktivinoda, "Oh, what a nice boy, very nice boy, but why doesn't he come closer?" And he said, "Because he has made a vow that he will not come within so many yards of any sahajya. And you are a big sahajya. So he will not come near you." So this way. So, then again, Guru Maharaj would always say, religion means proper adjustment. So to adjust everything according to the time, place and circumstance. And he uses that example again of when outside the ISKCON temple in Mayapur, some Muslim people came there and they killed a cow in front of the temple. And there was a big riot, you can imagine that. I was on a bus once in near Krishnagar, in Navadip, and the bus hit a cow as they're going along the road. The bus just glanced, but knocked the cow over. And the bus driver was so afraid of the reaction from that, he jumped out of the cab and he ran across the rice field. And he was gone, because he knew that any moment there'll be a mob here and they'll be out for blood. Because, that's a big thing if you're striking a cow like that. So what to speak of when they purposely slaughtered a cow outside of the temple. Big mob came, there's a big riot going on. And one of the devotees from the ISKCON temple came out with a shotgun and shot in the air, and like everyone ran away then, and dispersed that. So some people came to complain to Guru Maharaj. Oh, what kind of Vaishnava are they? Is that Trinadapi? Is that humility and tolerance? And they're coming with the shotgun? And Guru Maharaj said, no, we support them. We support them. Someone comes to molest the devotees and attack the temple, then let them take the gun and to defend the temple. He said, if somebody comes to beat your father, will you just stand by with your hands folded and say, yes, please, go ahead, I'm very humble and I'm tolerant? He said, no, you will say, finish me first before you can touch him, isn't it? So he said this in this way, we support them, because that humility, that has to be adjusted according to the circumstance. And Guru Maharaj said, was Hanuman's humility, was that disturbed when he burnt down the whole city of Lanka? Was that an act of aggression, or was that pure humility at the lotus feet of Ramchandra? We see it as that. So everything should be adjusted accordingly. So we shouldn't be so timid that we are afraid to do anything that it might cause offence. We've seen that, right? In Manchester, they stopped the council there, they stopped the Christmas celebration because they thought, oh, the Hindus and the Muslims, and they'll be offended by our Christmas celebration. But, when they asked the Hindu and the Muslim people, they said, no, we love Christmas. What are you talking about? But so, we shouldn't be that, timid that we're afraid of saying something that might offend somebody else, or if it's the truth. So there has to be some adjustment to that. We don't want to intentionally cause any offence to anybody or to disturb the mind of anybody, but still we stand for something. We stand for something, and we won't let people just come and trample all over that. So sometimes that means we have to, defend the temple if needs be. We used to have a very good temple defender. She used to live next door, you remember? Before that, Mr. and Mrs. Patel, their relatives owned the shop, and they had a young girl. Her name was Krishna, and she used to come when see Guru. She used to say, "Is Durudev? Durudev is here. I want to see Durudev." She was, I don't know what, 10 years old or something, And one day, some Muslim boys came here and they put a pipe bomb in the front entrance there. I mean, it was a pipe, and they put fireworks inside it, but it did blow a big hole in the wall. I mean, it was really, you can imagine, in that little porch out there, if one of our children or something, it could have killed or blinded them, But when that happened, she came running out of the shop, and she's ready to fight with those boys. You leave our temple alone, she's like. She was like a defender of the temple. So that is a good thing. That is a good thing that feel like that. Anyway.
So Sagar was one day here. The next door was complaining, he said, I got my road is and
Yeah.
he
Of
now
course.
he's a friend of us.
Well, he's dead now.
5 o'clock early.
Yeah. Anyhow, the principle is that. But in general, we should not try not to make offence to anybody or anyone, if we can avoid
If
that.
a person doesn't know, or ignorant of what's offensive, what's not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why Krishna Shampu was saying, therefore you are malecha, because you don't know like what you should or shouldn't do. And yeah, we see that. We see that. This is Kali Yuga. Nobody knows what's proper behavior, what's acceptable, what's not acceptable.
I think your guru can give a few words, like Sridhar Maharaj said,
Yes.
you should not say that.
Yes, of course.
And you cool down, saying, what my guru does it. Good for me, sort of thing.
Yes.
Well, you just said one Brahmin wanted to curse Krishna,
Yeah.
and Krishna said, "Don't waste your energy."
Yeah.
But Gandhari,
Gandhari, she
gave
can do, because she's Krishna's devotee.
Yeah.
So Krishna accepted that.
Yes.
But when she looked at his feet through her blindfold, she burnt his feet. And Krishna accepted because of who she was, because of her relationship with Krishna. But that it's, you can say, all rights reserved by him. If he wants to accept, he can accept. When Bhishma was throwing the arrows, then Krishna said he was accepting like offerings of flowers on his body. So, it depends on the person. Depends on, as Guru Maharaj would say, you need to cut your coat according to your cloth. So accordingly.
So everybody's individual.
Everyone individual, everybody. But we should, it's better to err on the side of caution than to think that we are qualified to give some chastisement, or better to be cautious and reflect. As Gurudev would say, wait and see. That was his advice. And no knee-jerk reaction, just wait and see. And often things resolve themselves when you do that. Ananda Srupani, you had a question.
So my advice I want to ask is along the lines of we don't want to be critical, etc. And so we take on those qualities that we're looking at. And what about, so in those circumstances, kind of like if and sadly when sometimes we hear criticism, things, how to adopt our kind of attitude and listening.
Yeah. Well, Srila Guru Maharaj would also say that we have to be discriminating, so that we should, although we should not look for faults in others, we should also be aware of like who is good association and who isn't good association. So, and a good rule of thumb of that is that people who are always criticizing others, they're not good association, first thing. But at the same time, we hear, and so Guru Maharaj said, if we hear some complaint against somebody, some Vaishnava, we should take it to a higher authority before we make our mind up on that. That you heard it, that means that Krishna wanted you to hear that. So, and what to do with it. So then approach somebody you have some faith in, and you can inquire from them. But it's better not to involve yourself in those things. We hear that Gadadhar Pandit, if anyone would make any criticism of any Vaishnava, he'd put his fingers in his ear and walk away from that place. He would not hear the criticism of anybody. So, that's better. There are all kinds of injunctions. But from our point of view, the best thing is to just put your fingers in your ear and walk away from that. And take that as an indication. That person always finding fault, not good association. Then find some better association.
Because then you're always having to adjust, and then you might be then upset for hearing criticism and think, and then you get critical that you're hearing that, and it's all,
Yeah.
you know, it takes nothing to, I mean,
Yeah.
for myself.
So we should, but we shouldn't be. We have some faculty of discrimination. So using that, we should. We can make some decision. Is this this person a good association or not? And try and always have better association than yourself. And sometimes if someone you're unavoidable having their association, you can try and help them also. If you have that conviction, if you have some conviction that you can help them, try and help them. If you think that by hearing these things from them you'll go down, then remove yourself from there. Go somewhere else, because that's we can do at least. You know that in the scripture it says, if you hear offense to Krishna or the Vaishnava, you should cut out the tongue of the offender. So we're not advising anybody to do that. It's cut out their tongue, defeat them by philosophical debate, or walk away. And walk away is usually the easiest thing to do, because that, at least that power we have. That cutting out the tongue is usually meant for kings to do that, not for the man in the street to do that.
I just want to have, I think this art of being is, I always feels really like perfectly encapsulated in Madhusudana Maharaj.
Yes. Yeah, actually, he's very exemplary because he won't hear criticism of anyone. And you'll never hear him criticize anyone either, whoever they may be. So yeah, he's a very good example of that. Because that's what Guru Maharaj taught us, and he took that seriously. Not to hear criticism and not to criticize. And his idea is always try to see the Vaishnava side of that person. Because everyone has some good qualities, and especially devotees, they're trying to be devotees of the Lord Krishna. They must have some good qualities there. So try and see that and ignore the non-Krishna part of their character as much as you can.
The Guru, they said there might be 99 bad qualities, but there must be one good quality.
Yeah,
And you look at the good qualities.
that's right. But not at the cost of your own equilibrium, so to say. But sometimes better to just remove yourself and honor them from a distance, like Saraswat Thakur. Make my obeisance from a distance. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So, are they ready to do the arti? So we have 2 festivals coming up this month. On the 22nd is Nityananda Prabhu's appearance day, and on the 29th is the appearance of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So put them in your diary and try and join us if you can on those days. Ready? Okay. Jai Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Bhagavan Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Rupanu Guru Bhagya ki jai. Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswata Acharya Vrinda ki jai. Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi.